The next speaker is a distinguished professor. She's a good friend of mine. She's one of the original founders of the Isaac Walton League chapter here in Allegheny County. And she came out with a very important book called Pathways to Our Sustainable Future. And the thing I think that distinguishes Patty, aside from her exhaustive activism, is she knows every player in town that's trying to take this thing into a positive direction. People that are proactive in terms of trying to get not just the economy moving into different directions, but the environment also. With that, I'd like to bring up my friend, Patricia DeMarco.
Okay, so we have a lot to get through and not a lot of time. We're going to connect fracking to plastics because guess what? People don't get it. Plastic doesn't happen out of thin air. It comes from natural gas. And we are facing the existential crises of our time. Not a manufactured crisis in the political world, not pseudo things in a crisis of wardrobe, not crises of what you're going to wear or eat tomorrow, but how are we going to leave a planet that is viable for our children, given where we are now. So we have to deal with climate change and we have to deal with global pollution, and they are both connected with natural gas production into plastic. Natural gas is converted into ethane, put through a refinery process in a cracker plant, and turned into products. The one that they're building here is going to make plastic precursor material for single-use packaging, mostly. This is going the wrong way for two reasons. Natural gas is a fossil fuel, and it is contributing massively to the production of greenhouse gases of carbon dioxide. The large red blob that you see up there is the CO2 production from fossil fuel burning by people. We waste more than we actually use to do work. The top gray block is what is dissipated as waste heat, and the smaller block, about a third the size, is what is actually used to produce work. So not only are we burning fossil fuels, we're wasting it tremendously much. The same with the global pollution from plastic. All of the plastic that has ever been made, about 8.3 billion tons, is pretty much still with us. There is about 2.5 billion tons that is virgin plastic still in use. That has been put into products that are either still with us or have been recaptured. Out of what is used once, 5.8 billion tons, 4.6 billion tons is discarded into landfill or other places. So more than half of what has been created as plastic from the beginning is not only still with us, it is in a discard mode and not serving any useful function. Tremendous waste, tremendous waste. And it's having some other complicating factors. As climate is changing, the increase in storms along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico and in Texas has damaged the refineries down there 5 years in a row. Guess what? Refugee status. They looked around and said, aha, where can we avoid getting wiped out every summer when the hurricane season happens?
Build a wall.
Well, that might work. That might actually work. But Pennsylvania is right there because we're in the middle of this gas field. It's going to have a pretty stable climate, kind of like what Virginia and Alabama are today. And they think this would be the ideal place to put their industry. But guess what? This is still our town. We get to choose. We get to choose how we want our state, our area, our future to look. Now, we can put up a cracker plant and we can build out this entire fantasy that the fracking industry would have us believe is the next wave of the future. Or we can decide that we're going to put up homegrown industries that generate energy without killing us. I give you the example of Epic Metals, which is using wind stacks, windmills, all made in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. And this is the kind of industry that if we decided to invest, what is it, $6 billion in incentives, we could build out industries that do not poison us and kill our children. The problem is that the whole fracking industry is manufactured on a suspended list of protections that are in the Halliburton loophole of the National Energy Act of 2005 under Vice President Cheney. They enacted a number of exemptions from the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Superfund Act that controls hazardous materials, and a number of OSHA provisions that require disclosure of chemicals to protect workers. 7 enacted areas that are supposed to protect the public and the workers have been suspended in order for this industry to even exist. And that is why they have built out all over in 39 states where there are shale deposits. 15 million people live within a mile of a fracking operation between 2010 and 2017. And there are 172,100 oil and gas industry non-supervisory employees, and only about 6.5% of them are in unions. These people are completely unprotected, they have no recourse, and they have no health and safety guarantees on their workplace, which is standard for most workers in every other job. So what we need to do is to call for precaution, to redress this law, and make a demand for responsibility from the industry and also for the government at both the local, state, and federal level to begin taking their responsibility seriously to protect the people, the actual public, and not just make the industry have loopholes so they can make money. It is a moral imperative. This is not a technology problem. We use plastic, a material designed to last forever, for products that are designed to be lasting for minutes. Your average plastic bag that you get at a store has a useful life of what, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it becomes trash. Just because we can do these things doesn't mean that we should. We have to begin asking the question, what are we doing with all this stuff? And we have to demand action on climate change. These issues are related. Whether you're mining or fracking or drilling, or whether you're making something that is going to last forever, or whether you're making something that can be reused, we need to demand that climate action be front and center on the agenda in every election, at every level. Now, the Juliana versus the US government is a court case brought by 21 teenagers. They were teenagers when they started, they're now in their 19s and 20s. They have been given one last appeal by the Supreme Court where the government has said that the burden of discovery is so great that they need more time. Well, they can ask all the time in the world, they're not going to be able to come up with a rebuttal to the fact that climate change is real and human caused and therefore requires government action. And at the 24th COP meeting in Katowice, Poland, the youth, the young people took center stage to demand the right to have a future. These are the voices that matter. These are the voices that count. We have to address the needs of people, not corporations. If we're going to deal with climate refugees and give them subsidies for relocation, what about all the people who are leaving areas of the country in the southern part of our own continent because of drought that has persisted for 5 years and wiped out their agriculture, because society has been destabilized by the climate instability? If we're going to subsidize refugee behavior, perhaps we should be looking with more compassion, empathy, and understanding to the people who are trying to come into our borders for asylum, and not giving subsidies to corporations who are trying to relocate to exploit our land. As the climate conditions begin to worsen, we have disparities in the effect. There are locational disparities, there are economic disparities, and worker rights and health conditions that we need to pay attention to. The decisions that we make today will shape the destiny of life on Earth, and they will shape the destiny of our children. You see here to your left the executives of the oil company delegation that was sent to COP24 by the US government, and you see on the other side a group of children playing in the woods. Which of those groups are going to guide our priorities for the future? Thank you very much.